Okay, welcome back. This is a demonstration that's part of a two-part series on how to write a Python script that will send an API request, take that returned JSON array, parse the information, and print to a TSV or tab separated value file for processing in Excel or another programming language such as R. We will, which is a tabular data set. We will start with the Python script and then move on into the processing of the tabular data set in R. So to get started, let me just demonstrate. I actually have a running program here. Okay, so I have a running, I actually already have written the program and running. I've set up a batch script to run the program. And so when I actually run this, we will see that it creates some files here. So we have a TSV file. This file, if I open it up, take a look, has the tab separated value of 3 fields or 3 columns. And we have the US dollar amount, which is a type of currency, the actual rate, and then the date that it was received. So what this is using, this Python script, let me open it here. What it does is it sends an API call or request to this API endpoint here at Coindesk, which returns the current price of Bitcoin as a JSON array. And so you might have seen this in my other videos. And so this is the Python script to do that. We'll go ahead and write this, build this from scratch for the remainder duration of the video here. So I just want to demonstrate that it actually works before we get started. And we'll actually include a log. And here's the actual JSON payload that's been returned. See if I can open it. And so this is what the return set looks like from the API call request to that endpoint. Let me go ahead really quick here and let's see. And we'll leave this open here. And let me pull up Google Chrome. So the API endpoint, if I send the request just in my Google browser URL here, this is the information that's sent back. And so you might have seen this before. If I refresh, it updates every minute. So it updates the rate every minute in US dollars, British pounds, and euros. And so these are the key pairs. We have a time, and then that information is all here, this entire set here. And then we have the BPI or Bitcoin price index. So that entire set is here. So this is what we will be, this is the information that we're interested in. So I'll need this link here. I'm going to put this in a notepad here and save it for later. I'll try to include the link in the description of the video. Also, you're going to need to install, if you notice I was running a batch script here. So what that does is it runs the Python program using a batch, using a call to Python. So you have to install Python onto your machine, your Windows machine. I'll include this documentation as well. Here's the instructions to install it. And if you aren't sure whether or not you have Python installed already, you can open up a Windows command prompt and type in Python where, or just type Python and see if you get anything back. But I'm going to type Python where. This tells me where the location, I'm sorry, it's actually where Python. That backwards. It tells you the location that this application lives. So I actually, Cygwin, which is well-known sort of, it's kind of like Git Bash. It's for Linux commands in Windows. And I actually installed Python as a program onto my machine, Python 3, and then just through Microsoft. It looks like I've done it a couple times. I can't remember when or where or why I did that, but it looks like I've installed it. And I think with Cygwin, you could choose to install different languages. So this is included the binaries for it. So this is the executable, right? So we can actually go to this location, see the Python executable there. But if you do just type in Python by itself, you're going to enter a Python command here or console. Okay, and then this is where you can start programming Python. We are not going to need to do that today. We will just, yep, okay, that's good. So let me clear this up and start from scratch. And I'm going to pull up this notepad just for reference because I've got some notes here. All right, so I like to change the color of my console. It's just a preference. It's not anything that you need to do or is necessary. All right, so now let's go ahead and change directory to our desktop. This is where I'm going to create my Python project, and I'll use the mkdir command to create a application project folder. So this will, let's just call this Bitcoin app. Okay. And so you can see here, ls, if usually with Windows, you'll type in dir, and then that stands for directory, and so that lists the directories. So you can see the BTC app is here. This is a demo I demonstrated earlier. But you notice that I'm using ls, which is something from Linux. If you want to know that, I actually installed that with Cygwin as well, so I can use it on my Windows machine. So that's where that executable lives. Okay, and so now that we have created our project folder, let's go ahead and move to it. And so nothing lives here. Let's go ahead and create a Python script. And so I'll use Nano today. And let's call this BTC API component .py. So that's an extension for Python scripts here. All right, so now we are in Python. So to comment, I'll use triple quotes here. And you can also use pound to comment for single line comments. I'm gonna create a, yep, that's pound. So let's do triple quotes. And so now that anything in here is a comment. So let's add some information here, programmer. Problem description. Just to save some time here, I'm going to actually just copy and paste this. So the goal is, let's see if you can read the whole thing. All right. I didn't want that to move out of view because it looks like this Nano is just not displaying everything. So let me just start here, copying. Okay, so parse, store, and visualize the information returned from the Bitcoin public REST API here. So this endpoint, which I will link here in a second, turns the current price of Bitcoin, USD, British pounds, euros. And that endpoint is the one that we looked at earlier. There it is. Okay, and then component details. So we're going to use the OS system module to send the actual API call or request to the console. You might be familiar with this curl command. And then we'll store that information, that JSON that's returned. Locally. In A. And then we'll open that file. In this case, TSV, and run, and then we'll run it in R. So I'm going to leave that out. But we can pick up that. We can pick that up in the next session. All right, and then if we wanted to run this program from CMD, let's just make a little note for ourselves. So it would just simply be Python, and then the name of the actual Python script, which is BTC API component.comp.py. And all right, we'll leave it there for now. Let me go ahead and save this. Okay. All right. All right, so it saves that we just have a comment in the program, which is fine. I think let's go ahead and just see. I want to see what happens. I'm not sure what will happen. All right, compiles, it does nothing. So let's go ahead and go back and edit this file. And just to be sure, I want to, let's see. All right, let's see if that works. Let's see, what was the issue? Oh yeah, so first I need to actually declare the module, right? So, or import it. Let's import the modules. Okay, so comment import modules. Let's do one for now. So import the OS module, and I may or may not be may not need to do this, but let's import the sys as well. System. Okay. And the outputs to the console. So the program is running, it's compiling, it's working. So that's good. So let's continue. We're going to need some other modules during this project here. So let's import JSON. And I believe date time as well is something I took advantage of. And also os.path. All right, so let's declare some path names. So you don't need to use any sort of type declaration. So let's create a string. Let's call this BCI. Let's call this API rec. Okay, equals, and then we can put our curl command in here. So I like to include the pound so I can see the status, because I'm actually going to send the output directly to a JSON file. So we want to actually see the output. So I want to make sure that we monitor the status. And then let's see, it will be, let's just call this the Coindesk payload. JSON, and then actually you send the API call. So that is going to just be that link here. All right, that looks good. So let's go ahead and confirm. Let's save the program. Let's run it and see if it actually creates. So right now, let me clear this out. And let's list our contents of the directory of the project. So it's just, it has the Python script. Let's run it and see if it creates our JSON file. Let's see. Oh, I see what I did there. Typo. All right, so it ran successfully, did nothing, or it looked like it did nothing. And it looks like, let's see. Oh, I had not even sent the command to the console with the OS system module. So let's go back and edit our program. Let's actually send the let's send that message. So so what I like to do is I like to print a message, identifying what's happening during the actual run of the program. So let's print a message to the console, and we'll just use the print method here, and we'll call this command, and then we'll put the string. So that's going to be API rec. Okay. And we're going to need a comma. We're going to include variables. And then let's actually run the command. So os.system will actually run the command for us. So we can, just like we did earlier with hello, we can just pass the API rec. All right, so that looks good to me. Let's maybe make a little note. All right, so there you have it. So we output to the console the actual command that we're running. Those pound signs indicate that the status of the request, and it looks like it had been processed. Let's see if our file was generated. It was Coindesk_payload.json. Let's output that in the contents of that file to the console using the cat command. So Coindesk_payload.json. And there you have it. That's our file, and it looks like it has the current price of Bitcoin. Now I think that if I run it again, it should overwrite this. So let's pay close attention to the date time here, 1818. So it looks like it's 2:19 in Eastern time here. So this will have the it should update this time. So that should change. Let's run the script again. Okay, and let's output that file to the console to make sure that it has updated successfully. If it hasn't, we can address the errors. So as you can see, 1819, 1818. So initially it was 1818. It was the contents. And did the actual price change at all? It looks like it did. So we have British pound. 1 minute ago, it was 16,716 pounds. Now it's 16,721 pounds. Let's look at US dollar amount. $20,005 and $20,012. So in just a minute, Bitcoin has changed price. Let's run the script again. And let's see the output of that. So now we're 1820. So 20,000. So it went up about $7 and then dropped down $10. So it's pretty volatile. Let's try and run this again and see if it any changes. So now so I think I did it too soon. I gotta wait a minute. Let's run it one more time. And it did not change in the last minute. Oh, because it hasn't passed yet. This endpoint updates every minute. So from what I could tell, you can head over to Postman. That's where I picked it up in one of the libraries. So if you want to head over to Postman and read up on it, just go to coindesk.com, and I'm sure there's something there. I actually don't know. Okay, so we had a minute pass, and the United States dollar has gone down to $19,989. So, so it's dropping in the last few minutes. Okay, so now that we have successfully sent the request to the Coindesk endpoint and are getting return JSON set, now let's start parsing that information. Okay, so let's go ahead and edit our Python script, and we're going to need to take advantage of some of the JSON module and start parsing some information. So let's we're going to need to create a couple paths because we're going to need to actually open the file and read it. So let's call this the payload path, and that's going to have just the name of the file, which is Coindesk payload.json. Okay, and then let's create another path to parse that. So we'll just call this the payload parse for short. And so that path is going to create a file, a TSV file for us. And so we'll just call this BTC rates.tsv. All right, so now let me scroll down here. X. There you go. All right, so now let's see what's next. So let's print the data table. And so that will actually not have any information. Let me double check one thing here. Check this log. I want to see what's going on. Okay. Yep. So, so what I'm going to do is just print the name of the file that we created. This is going to come in handy later for the log. A little hard to see, but file found. And then, so let me think about this for a second. So let's actually create that file. It hasn't been created yet. So we're just printing out the string that we made here. So let me go ahead and create a TSV file. And also, we're going to have to include all permissions, so read, write, and execute. So there's so it's the open, so TSV table, let's call this table, equals open, and then we'll include the path name, which is the payload parse. And we'll include all permissions here. We make a note of that as well. All permissions. That should create our table. So on the first run, we might want to include a header. Okay, and so let's write to the table. And so let's go ahead and do that. So comment out after the first run. And or write a header to the TSV file. Okay, so we'll use the TSV table dot write, and we will go ahead and write the header file, the headers for that. So I'm just gonna call this monetary code, and then \t. So it's not comma separated, it's tab separated. So \t for tab, for the escape sequence for tab. Rate as float is the other key, value or key that we're going to be grabbing from the JSON array. Rate as float \t, and the date. So the date as ISO \n. Well, I want to go to a new line, and we have to close the file. And that's one thing that we'll want to do. So let's close the file object. So the TSV table dot close. Okay, looks pretty good. Let me think if there's anything else that I want to say. All right, so that's it for that. So let me go ahead and save the file. Let's take a look. Contents. Okay, and so then let's run the command. Run the program. Okay, so let's see if that actually created our table. So it did. So here's our Bitcoin rates.tsv. Let's take a look at the contents of that file. It should just have the headers. Okay, and it does. All right, so one little thing I like to do, we'll get in that a little bit, but I like to open it up in Notepad++ and have it side by side, so that way I can, and I'll use the little eyeball icon. Let me pull it over here for you. So we move to our project. Okay, so here's our TSV file. If I open up this in Notepad++, we can actually click this eyeball icon, so we can actually monitor it. as it updates. So we'll look at that later, but I'm going to have it open on the side here. Okay, so now that we have created our TSV with headers, let's go ahead and comment out that initial message, that initial write to the table. Okay, and so now that, so we have to open the table here. This is where we open it. So create a TSV file / open, because it's already been created. So then, so if it doesn't exist, open function will actually create one. All right, and let's go ahead and start parsing the JSON array. So we're going to use a loop. So with open, and then let's do, so we're just going to be reading the Coindesk payload JSON file here, this one. So we're just going to be reading that file. We don't need to write to it. So we'll do open with read permission. So let's go ahead and write the path name here, which is payload path. Later, if we wanted to update these, we could. That's why I put them as variables at the top of the program. And then we'll use the read permission. Okay, and let's just call this API read. Okay, so API read. All right, so now let's load the JSON file. So we'll call this JSON array equals JSON.load and API read. Okay, and I also need to include a colon here. Next up, we're going to dump the JSON array into a Python string. Okay, so let's go down. So when I zoom in and out, it just really causes problems for viewing. But so now let's load. Let's dump the contents. JSON.dumps, and then JSON array. Okay, and then let's load that string into a Python object. So JSON to Python object. So that JTOP stands for JSON to Python. A comment. And now that we have that everything loaded into Python object, we can actually start parsing information. Okay, so let's grab the United States dollar amount first. And what I want to do, well, actually, let's grab the time. Let's grab the date time first. Okay. And we'll output to the console so we can see what the program's doing as we dump it into the TSV file. So let me go ahead and save this. All right, so now let's go ahead and quick note, refer to the JSON file for names of keys and for the names of keys for formatting. So then let's grab the date time key pair. So that's so that'll be time dot, or no dot there, just brackets. Updated ISO. So let me, so I already know what it's called, but let me show you guys how I know that. So let's go back to that API response here. So here's that return set, which I could just open on Chrome. So here, let's refresh this. Okay, so you'll see here that here's the time key, and then there's different values or keys within that time index. So let's say what we wanted was update ISO. So we're trying to grab this key pair. Okay, so time and updated ISO. Okay, and to grab this value right here, this string or date time object. So we go ahead and paste that here, just as an example. All right, so time, let's call this time updated ISO. I'm just going to call it UPISO. So UD ISO, UPD. So that's time updated ISO key pair equals, and then so we'll grab J to top, J to Python object, and then append the actual key pair. Okay, looks good. Let's go ahead and print it. Let's make sure that we've got it. And I want to actually run the program, see if there's any errors. See if we're missing anything. Time. Equals, and then comma, so the actual to the actual object. So this lets you know to place it there in the string. Dot format. Yep, format. Because later when we actually print, we're going to have to include multiple curly braces for at different points in the actual. Because the format function, you pass in the string that you want to print to the console. So the time, you'll see what I mean once we get multiple, why we have to do that. PD ISO. Okay, let's save this. Okay, and we have our print. It looks like I included extra slash here. We actually haven't written anything to that CSV file yet, right? So so it still just has the headers, but we did successfully grab the update ISO object of that JSON array. So let's do cat. I believe it was Coindesk payload.json. And so let's compare that. So here's the actual object 2022, August 31st. And if we look over here, here's the ISO 2022, August 31st. Okay. You could get the August 31st format with, if you wanted to. I'm just going to go with the ISO for this project. But if you wanted to do that, you would just, instead of using updated ISO here, that key value, you do time updated UK, right? And so this comma separates this entire index here. So it's time, and then this key pair. These are the three key pairs you can put with time. Disclaimer is its own, and then you move on to actually the chart name, which is just Bitcoin, and then the BPI or Bitcoin price index here. That's all of this information. So we want to grab, like, for example, the USD rate. It would have to be BPI dot, or it would be BPI rate, etc. So we'll get to that right now. Okay, and that's fixed now. All right. So now let's grab the United States dollar amount. So we're going to grab the, like I just mentioned. So I think we're going to grab two key pairs. So it will be BPI and rate as float, and the code. So BPI, and then the next key is going to be USD, because we'll go back and look at it. But let's actually pull up Google Chrome. So here you see BPI, and then this entire index includes all the BPI key pairs. But then there's a new key pair, or new sequence, USD, and that sequence includes everything just from here to here, right? Just the highlighted portion. So you have three key pair. It's a key triplet. So you got BPI USD code, BPI USD rate, and the description, if you like. We're just focused on the code and the rate float right now. And once in the second part, you'll see why the code, why I grabbed that, because if I build a data frame within R, or if you're using Excel and you have that header, the 3-part header there, that's the code, and pull up right here. So you have your header, monetary code, rate as float, ISO. So say we're going to be printing out all three types: USD, Euro, and British pounds. But let's say you only want the Bitcoin prices that have USD or monetary code equal to USD. So that helps with the filtering when you're running queries on your data frame. Okay, so grab BPI USD, and then it was code, right? So we'll just type. So this is just a comment here, code, and again BPI. After this, to get the British pounds and euros, it's going to be effectively the same. You just need to change the key pair. So it would say BPI UER or EUR code, etc. And you'll see that. And so that once we do this once, then we'll be good to go. And rate float was the name of that. Double check. Yep, rate float. Okay. So let's grab those, and then we'll want to not only print to the console, but actually write. Eventually we're gonna write these values into our tabular data set, or TSV file. So let's create a couple of variables. Let's do USD code equals JSON to Python _ object, and then our key pairs USD and code, and then USD rate float. So let's do rate F, J to P, underscore object. You could have named that anything you wanted. BPI. Yep. And so let's confirm that we have successfully grabbed these values and by printing to the console. So to make it simple, I'm just going to say USD. Oops. And pass the. So now let's format the string that's going to print. So we will use. I want to go to a new line. I want to call it code. And then let's separate that by a colon again. And then we use \t to move a tab out, and then the curly braces to indicate where that goes. And if I print here or dot format, then I'll pass in USD code followed by USD rate F. And we'll see why this is important when we actually write to the file. And so we need one more value here, \n. Let's call it rate. Maybe I put capital over here as well. Code rate as float. Do I want to grab the actual rate? No, I don't need to. We'll just call this rate and then \t. So that should print to the console the US dollar amount, key pair, the values of the key pair for code and the value of the key pair for rate float. We're going to grab a couple others. These are the only two that we need to print to the actual TSV file. We'll grab a couple others here. So let's go ahead and run it. So remember, it's updating every time we run it. So we didn't get the rate successfully. So you can see here, US dollar amount. Maybe I should just grab the description and print it there. That might be easier. And it will say United States dollar amount. And it didn't grab the rate. So let's see what happened there. This is the key pair. Oh, I know why. So what happened is I forgot my curly brace here. And that is so if you're not getting this, so this curly brace contains this value. This curly brace will place this value at that particular index in the string, if that makes sense. All right, so let me just reformat this output a little bit so that way it's clearer to the user or the person running the program, myself. And let's do, so the key pair is BPI. So this means that we're looking at this key pair. Just like we did with time updated ISO, we're looking at this key pair here. So let's go ahead and do ourselves a favor and grab the description. So USD desker equals J to P object, and we'll call this BPI, grabbing BPI USD description. That was the name of the key in the description right here. So that should give us the United States dollar string here. Okay, so description. And then let's grab description. I also want to get the, if we needed to, like say if we were building a website or something, we needed HTML, we can get the symbol or the enum or ename here if we wanted to. And if you don't want the float value, you can get the value with the actual comma. So, you know, I'm going to leave those out. If you feel like doing that, just follow this format. Instead of, you would just copy everything here, and then the last key value, the value that you would include would be, for example, if you wanted the symbol, you could say symbol. If you wanted the rate, you just say rate instead of rate float. Those are two different values. Okay, so now we have our information. I'm going to include the description as well. So that would be USD Desker. And also, I think it might be useful if we leave these as the actual key name, right? So rate. Because you might think, oh, why am I writing, you know, the US dollar twice, you know? So. And description. And so it's going to be a different time. 48 here, and here's 1853, 1848. And we didn't print the rate last time, but we do have we do have our values now. So now we can write this to the actual TSV file. And just like we did with the headers, we'll do TSV table.write and then include that information. And I want to say something here. Okay, yep, that's good. So let's go ahead and write it. So TSV table.write. And I think we just have to pass in just the actual value. So we'll reformat it. So we're going to have curly brace \t, curly brace \t, curly brace \n. And then we'll have to remember the actual order of the headers. So the first value that we want to enter is monetary code, tab rate is float, tab date. Okay, so we'll say dot format, and then put our variables in there. Let's see. Okay, so the backslash n will drop it to a new line, and then the next row that we write will be we're going to write the US dollar amount, euro, and British pound every time we run the program, and then another 3 rows. So each code or currency type, currency code will have its own row. And so the first value is USD code, and USD rate. And after this, I'll pull this in Notepad++ to kind of speed the process along, because we're just going to copy and paste, because it's going to be the same algorithm here. USD Desker. Oh, no, we actually want the time. So up here it's time UPD ISO. That will be the same every time. And okay, I'm happy with that. So let's see if we actually successfully can write this to the file, and then I'll probably delete it. So let's take a look here. Let me clear all this out. So let's list our files. So let's take a look at the Coindesk. Now you could do all this with Notepad++. I'm just using the console just to kind of, just for practice and learning of console commands and getting used to this environment or used to this setup. So then let's see. So that's our current payload. Let's check our table, our BTC TSV file. And it has just the header, and so we're going to enter one row, which is going to be that US dollar amount. Let's run the program. Okay, so we should see in that added as a row in that TSV file, we should see the USD code, the rate is float, and then the date. So let's go ahead and cat the BTC rates.tsv. And there you have it. There's our new row here. And over here in my Notepad++, it did update. So if I run the program again, you'll see it pop up again, another row. It's just going to be the same information. So we don't actually want that. So I'm going to delete these. So I want to have I wanted to have the USD, British pounds, and euros, all 3 rows every time the program runs. So let's go ahead and, so now what we're going to do is let's open up our program in Notepad++. So let's minimize that for a second. Bring this up. So here's our program that we've been modifying in the command line here using Nano. So what we can do, now I'm just going to refer to this as a note here. So anything, right, keep parse CSV table. Okay, so now I want to do the same thing again, but for the other currency types. So first we'll, let me take a look at what's next. So the next guy is British pounds and then euro. So we'll start with British pounds, GBP. So let's change this to and it's going to have GBP. So GBP, GBP. So I'm going to copy that to my clipboard, and then every time I see a USD, I'm going to replace it with GBP. Okay, and then now we need to update our variables. So here, let's just use lowercase GBP. Is it GBP or GBP? Let me see. GBP. Okay. So GBP. So what I want to do is just copy this guy. All right, so now let's do it again for euros. Go back here, British pound sterling. That's what the description had. That's fine. All right, so let's grab, we'll just copy this all again. Now we're going to put it for euros. So and the short code for that is EUR. Every time I see a GBP, I'm going to replace that EUR. Okay, and then we'll change this to EUR here, lowercase. All right, and then anything else? I think that's everything. If I wanted to, I think I could print the entire object, so I'm going to just go ahead and copy that over. That pretty much covers the entire Python program. Let me see. Yeah, so every time it runs, I want to print the contents of the JSON array just to compare it with the return set. All right, so now we have this. Let me go ahead and watch it, and let's see it update as I run the script. And it should give us 3 rows here. It should insert 3 rows into this tabular data set here for the TSV file. So let me, my command, and I'm going to run it. And there you have it. So it did move it there. Let me try running this one more time. Okay, it doesn't do a new line every time. It's just doing it on that initial run because I had a new line on the actual program or the actual file. Pull this up. Let's turn that off. Let's erase this, save it. So now the cursor is right here. Let's watch it again and run the program. So that's fine. It's just that initial one that keep messing up. Let's try taking that out and save. There you go. Okay, so that's our first 6 rows of the Python script. If you wanted to create a batch script so that you can run this without running this command every time, we could just place this command in a batch script. So let's do that. So I want to create a new file. And I'm going to save it as batch script in this project folder. So type batch file. Run P, that's what I like to call them. Let's see, programmer. And I'm just going to cheat really quick, look back at my notes here. So it looks like I like to keep a log. And so all the information that we have been printing to the console, I'm going to place in a log file. So let me go ahead and copy this over since I already did the work. And we'll change this to OD. And so this is just the format for the date time. It's going to give us the date and then time. And we'll call this, so the name of the script is Bitcoin API, BTC API comp. So we got to change this. Right, and we'll call this the all right, looks good to me. So let's test it out. So really quick, I'm going to pull this BTC rates up, and then it should create a log file. So minimize that. So here's our run Python script. Let's double click that. And so here is what's printed to the command. And so you can see that curl command that was sent, the API request is 100% complete. Press any key to continue. Let's look back. We added 3 more rows at a different time. 5 minutes here. So 1905, 1903. And it should have created a log file, which, let's see, here it is. There's a log file right there. So we pull that up in Notepad, and you can see all the information that we initially printed the console is now in this log file. So let's go ahead and run it again and watch this log file as it updates. Close that. And it looks like it did update with another instance. So here, date Wednesday, log ID, and then that's the format that I had here. This is the log ID, is the date time. So it should be unique every time it runs. And then, you know, what was accomplished. And then another instance here. And it looks like the formatting's a little off on this length of this here. So what I'm gonna do is copy that into my script up here. Oops. So I want to take the length here, the number of characters, and put it here. There you go. So now every time I run it, it should have the same length. But yeah, so this is a different log ID here. See the log. So next time what we'll see is we're going to take this tab separated value file, pull it up in R, and run some we're gonna select all the USD amounts. You know, we're gonna graph it. And another thing I wanted to do was set this up in a task scheduler so that it runs every 5 minutes. You get the current Bitcoin rate every 5 minutes. And it should update the TSV. But we'll save that for next time. That's everything that completes the project here. I'll try to include this any links or any of the project code in the video description. And so thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed. I hope thanks for sticking around if you did. I know it's kind of a long, try to keep it as quick as possible, but that concludes this session. So take care. Goodbye.